Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk to you and give my reaction to how coronavirus has affected young people in today's society, from both a financial and a life standpoint. Now, I'm one of the young people that I am talking about. I'm only 23 years old, but fortunately from a financial standpoint, I've actually been very fortunate when it comes to coronavirus. I had a job which was offered before coronavirus happened, and actually it's been maintained throughout this period, and I've been able to start my job with no issues, albeit virtually and from home. But a lot of people out there haven't had the same experience, and a lot of the news articles that I'm going to show you actually highlight how devastating coronavirus has been for young people, more so than any other category of people. So the first news article highlights that young people were the first to leave the workplace. Now this meant that once the epidemic hit, young people who had just got new jobs or were just about to enter new jobs were the first people that were basically being told that their jobs were no longer required or that they were getting put on furlough. Now, as much as you may look at furlough and you may think, great, 80% of your salary for doing no work, you get to sit around at home, that sounds fantastic. The main issue is that for everyone, that means 100% of your costs have to be covered by 80% of your salary. But actually, compounding this, the issue is much worse when it comes to young people. Because when you're young, everything is about saving as much as you can, reducing spending, so that you can get yourself either on the property ladder or make substantial investments as soon as possible to benefit you later in life. But only having 80% of your salary during this time to cover your 100% costs means that young people have less money than ever to be able to save up and invest in the things that are important later in life, such as setting them up with a stable real estate portfolio, whether it's buying their first house or buying a house to rent, or creating investments that last in the future, whether that's through mutual funds and index funds. So the statistics behind this, well, in the first 3 months of the coronavirus period, over 50% of all eligible 16 to 25-year-olds were put on the furlough scheme. That is an absolutely massive amount of people, especially when you compare this to the fact that just under a quarter of those over the age of 45 were put on the furlough scheme. This really shifts the balance of people who are working and earning their full wage versus those who are barely getting by and are using 80% to cover 100% of those costs, down towards the younger people who have taken the brunt of the impact of coronavirus with being laid off or being put into furlough. Additionally to this, young people were also significantly more likely to lose their job than older people, which would be an even worse situation when it comes to saving, and has forced lots of young people to actually move back home with parents and reevaluate their life strategies. Secondly, and this is the most crucial thing that I have witnessed because I've just come out of university and I've seen it affect a lot of my friends, but graduate vacancies have fallen by 60% across the board. Now what this means is not only are there less jobs going around, meaning that fewer people can actually be employed, but the competition for those jobs that remain is significantly higher than it ever was before, meaning it's harder than ever before to get a job as you're coming out of university. And I can only imagine how daunting the whole process must be, knowing that it's 60% harder to get a job, having been through 3 online tests, your online assessment, your video interview, your in-person assessment centre, your in-person interview, and then a final round of interviews just to get one grad job. I can't imagine how difficult it must be doing all of that and having it all be virtual, and on top of that knowing that there's 60% more competition out there for that same role that you're applying for. Now the worst hit sectors were marketing, where the number of jobs advertised fell by 84%, and IT, where the typical number of students applying for grad jobs was 5 times higher than in previous years. So if you were looking for jobs in either of those sectors, you're either faced with significantly less opportunity for jobs, meaning that way more students are either having to go below what they're hoping for and take salaries which are significantly lower, or you've got much more competition for the very same job, which means you're far less likely to actually get the job that you may have got pre-COVID. The next thing which is really significant to highlight is it's not just those coming out of university, it's also those who are looking at alternative methods of gaining jobs, for example through apprenticeship schemes. Apprenticeships have fallen by over half since March 2020. Now this is a really significant thing because it means not only are those coming out of university unable to get jobs, but it also means that even those who have taken their GCSEs and A-levels have made it through the difficulties of the grading system that we had this year and had apprenticeships confirmed for after they've done their exams, have now found themselves with their apprenticeships cancelled or with fewer apprenticeships than ever before to apply for. Now this is really, really negative as it means that there's less gateways to get into industry than there were before, and even fewer gateways for those of you who don't have a degree. On top of this, a significant problem with the whole apprenticeships being reduced and jobs being reduced is it means that a lot of students are having to move back home with parents, and this is severely damaging to mental health, which is something that I'll touch on later. But it's not helped by the social stigma of young people being lazy and wanting to live at home as long as possible, when actually in today's society and the way that the world is now, it's very difficult to get a job, and once you do have a job, moving out into cities that are quite large, for example London or Manchester, can seemingly be out of budget, and living at home is the only way to continue. So coronavirus has only compounded the mental health issues that are observed in the young people of today, and this is a real issue that needs addressing. Another significant problem is that youth wages have dropped due to unemployment. This is something I briefly touched upon earlier, but essentially it's the concept of trading down jobs. So what happens in this situation is that young people who would have gone for a job that maybe paid £30,000 on a graduate scheme are now seeing a reduction in the number of possibilities that they have, and may be more willing to accept jobs at 24 or 25 or even lower in terms of the amount of money that they're earning per year. Now, not only is this a short-term issue, meaning that for this year, for the first year that they get their job, they're getting paid less than they may have done, but actually the issue compounds over years, as it takes several years to earn back that deficit that you originally start with, either through the companies that you're applying to being less competitive, or through the roles not having as much responsibility early on, meaning that your salary doesn't develop at the rate that it may have done in the job that you would have applied to pre-coronavirus. So again, this serves to just lengthen the amount of time it takes for young people to save up enough to invest in the housing market or to invest in significant investments which can pay off later in life. Both of these things are really significant life milestones, which unfortunately are just becoming harder and harder to achieve in today's society. Now, the fifth and final thing that I want to touch upon is something close to my heart because, as I said, I wasn't affected too negatively financially throughout this whole period, but mental health wise it's been a real battle throughout all of coronavirus, and speaking to a lot of my friends, they found this time much tougher than any time they've had before. Personally, I'm living by myself at the moment, and the complete isolation and the lack of things that you can do outside is really difficult to come to terms with, and actually starting this YouTube channel is one of the most useful things I've done, as it's given me a creative outlet and has really filled my time. So that's one thing I would recommend, is if you are trapped and you're thinking, I don't know what to do, coronavirus has ruined all my plans, trying to find maybe a YouTube channel or a creative outlet that you can use is something that's really, really important, even if it's just as simple as baking cakes and giving them to friends, although remember to remain socially distant when you do that. Or if it's setting up a small business or a side hustle, those things are really significant in life because they increase your... So as I said, mental health is one of the most significant things that has been impacted by coronavirus. Now, in young people that were surveyed, 44% of them had lower aspirations for the future than before, and 41% of young people between the ages of 15 and 24 said that they actually feel that their long-term life goals and dreams are no longer achievable as a result of what's happened during the coronavirus. Young people not only are feeling the brunt of the impact today, where they have less jobs and they can't apply for as many jobs, but long-term they're also seeing dilution of their dreams and already starting to believe that life isn't going to be the way that they pictured it. Now, of course, there is some managing expectations. You may not end up living your dream in life, even if it wasn't for coronavirus. But for so many young people at such a young age to have to come to terms with the fact that the first job they're going to get may not be something they're truly passionate about because they're having to take a compromise due to the lack of jobs, is something that's terribly disheartening when you think that there are so many young people, and as I said, 41% of them are thinking that their lifelong dreams are no longer achievable. So I know this is a bit of a morbid statistic, and unfortunately it is one that I think I do have to mention and hammer home, but suicide is the second biggest killer of young people aged between 15 and 24. Now, coronavirus has served to increase suicide rates, and a lot of the suicide helplines in the UK have actually had to up the number of responders that they have in order to take all of the calls that they've been receiving. So I will leave a link down below to the Samaritans helpline and to some NHS advice about mental health. But just remember that there are people out there who do care for you, and that if you talk to them, you may find that these people are sharing the similar situation that you're in, and that if you talk to your friends and your family or those around you that you feel you can confide in, it might make you feel a little bit better, and it might help ease some of that difficulty. And remember, of course, the phone number that I've put down below and the NHS help advice, that can also help you too. So really, those are the main things that have happened, is that young people have been affected hugely financially, whether it's through a lack of jobs or a decrease in the wages that they can accept. But also there's been an enormous increase in the difficulties faced when it comes to a mental health standpoint. And it's something that I think needs to be public addressed and more people should talk about. So my final message to young people really is not to give up hope. Now, I know I'm one of the lucky people who has now got a job during coronavirus and is able to sit here and say financially I've not been impacted. But I just want to make sure that you know that there is support out there. As I said again, there are links down below that I'll leave for you to look at. But just know that coronavirus has given everyone one thing that is a real positive, so long as you take it the right way, which is time to think. Very rarely do we have time to take a step back and analyse our situation when we know that we could be doing something else. Well, at the moment, we can't be travelling, we can't be going out with friends, we can't be doing all these things. So we have a lot of time to reflect on ourselves and focus on self-growth and trying to understand what we can do to make ourselves happier in the long term. And I think that is the one key positive that you can take from coronavirus, is that you've got time now to really focus on what it is you want to do with your life. Now, this is a small positive to take out of what is a very dismal situation. But if you can take any positive out of a situation like this, then you're going to end up in a much better position than you would have been if you'd just focused on the negatives. So I would say take the time that you've got and really reflect on what you want to achieve in life and where you want to go. Because you might find actually that you might push yourself down a different career path, or you may start a business, or you may start a YouTube channel and a new creative outlet. But you'll find yourself doing things which you might not have done before. And this is one of those times in life where we do have exactly that time. So that's everything for today's video. Now, it's been a bit of a negative one because unfortunately the impact of coronavirus has been very significant. But if you do have any more pointers that would help young people, then stick them down in the comments. If you did enjoy the content, hit the like button. If you're new around here, please subscribe. Let me know in the comment section down below how coronavirus has impacted you, and hopefully we can draw out, even if it is a negative experience, some learning that we could get from this and that we can improve upon in future. So as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.